Hi, Colleen. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm glad that we're having this opportunity to talk to you about
I'm glad to be here.
your time at Fairfield playing rugby. Can you start by just introducing yourself and telling us what class you graduated with?
Sure. My name is Colleen Grinnell. Colleen Paull was my former name, and I graduated in class of 2000, and I was the vice president of our rugby team my freshman year and president for my sophomore, junior, and part of senior year.
Wow, that's great. Did you know much about rugby before
Not
playing at Fairfield?
I think right before I came, I met up with a friend of mine who introduced me to a class of 99 graduate, Brendan Kilroy. And he told me there were two things I needed to do. One was live in Campion, and the second was to join Fairfield Women's Rugby.
Wow, that's
So.
great. What did you like most about playing the sport of rugby at Fairfield?
The girls, they were a lot of fun and no pretension really, just a lot of fun to be around. And even, I think the first day I showed up, there were 80 girls that looked like they were trying it. I mean, the field was covered, and everybody just seemed like they wanted to be there, and they were in with it and into it and excited, but nobody really knew what we were doing. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing, and we were relying a lot on the seniors to walk us through, and a lot of the men's team actually helping us out and helping us through all the drills. But it was a lot of women athletes out there just out there trying to be competitive.
So at that time, it was early on in the women's history of playing rugby.
That would
at
have been about
Fairfield.
96, yes. And the team was founded in 94, so that would have been the second year that they had been in existence, or third year maybe, because 94, 95, the third year they were in existence.
How would you say that the university felt about women playing rugby at Fairfield? Was it something, did you feel like you were trailblazing to a certain extent, or were there issues or barriers?
I didn't feel there were issues or barriers. I think the men definitely had more clout, if you will. They had been there for a longer time. Growart Field was their field. So they, of course, were very accommodating for us and allowing us to be on that field. But there were other sports at certain times that would take the field, and I think it didn't. I know they would never usurp the men's team for that, but they would, usurp the women to get them out.
So sometimes your team would get pushed
for maybe the football team or maybe another team if their field was under construction. But once the guys kind of got wind of that, and I think they let the Growart family know that seemed to have stopped towards my senior year, but it definitely did happen.
Yeah. So there were some things that you had to sort of prove yourselves in a way
A little
that
bit.
you should have the same expectation as the men's team did to play on that field. How did you actually learn the game? Did you have any coaching or?
We did. I think some of the men, like I said before, helped us with the coaching. So the men's team would help us a lot, and they supported us a lot through the majority of the years I was there. There were a couple years where we had to go and get outside coaching just because we couldn't find one of the men ruggers to be able to commit, but we were able to get some outside coaching. It was a struggle a couple of years, a couple of seasons. We'd either have a coach for one of the seasons and not have a coach for the fall, or vice versa, between fall and spring.
So you had, as the student players, you had to take on some leadership roles yourselves. And you talk a little bit about your role.
We did. We had to, one of the things that the leadership had to do, so between the captains and the president, the match secretary, we did have to set up some of our games still. We were in the Met New York Union, but we had a season with them, which was our fall season. In spring, we'd still have to set up our matches for the spring. And then we'd also have to work again on coaching, so we'd send some of the girls out to talk to the guys' team to see if they could provide some coaching, and when they couldn't, the athletic department, sometimes they'd get some phone calls of people of interest. Now, some of those guys weren't necessarily interested in teaching us how to play rugby, but we did end up with a few coaches that were helpful, so that worked out pretty well.
How did you take on things like getting uniforms, and did you have good uniforms? Did you?
Well, we had rugby shirts. I mean, I think they're a lot fancier now, and I mean these were our little shirts. They were just a little square, typical pattern, I think, for rugby, and they're heavy. And I think the school was generous enough to give it to us, and which was good because typically At the end of each season, the seniors would sometimes take theirs with them to as a little bit of a tradition, so we'd have to just replace a couple of numbers here and there. But I feel like the school expected that, so there always seemed to be a little bit of a budget for us to pick up some new shirts. I think the shirts now are a little bit fancier. They wick off your sweat, they repel rain, and they're lighter and easier to move in, but these were monsters.
What happened after the games, off the field?
We used to kind of joke that our drinking team had a rugby problem. I think that was probably a saying for a lot of rugby clubs. But we had a good time off the field. I think I spent most of my senior year planning events, whether that was beach games or officer initiation or a senior initiation at the end of the year. And we just liked to make sure everybody had a good time and was included, and all the girls were invited, no matter. We weren't trying to be exclusive about who could attend and who couldn't attend. We really tried to be inclusive and involve everybody. And we typically did scavenger hunts a lot of times, leading to having some sort of alcoholic drink in the library of the school. And that, I think, is probably carried on, I hope, because we did it every year we were there, and I think they've done it, all the girls I knew at least, continued to do that every year. So at least it went on for 8 years, I'm aware of. Not sure if that's kept up, but it was pretty fun. I think one of our coaches, and this wasn't a game, it's just sort of for one of the coaches for one of our parties, he stole the president's toilet out of his townhouse and brought it to our party and sort of made it into
president of the men's club?
No, president of the university.
Oh,
and
that president.
That president, and made it into like a planter, and you could do what I guess at the time was a toilet bowl shot out of it. So the coach had made the coach was a player on the men's team. He had made it was a shot of Bailey's, and I think it was pina colada mix on the outside of it, and you had to go no-handed in and try to fish out the shot. So it was pretty funny.
Quite creative.
Quite creative little Irish gentleman that did that for us. But we just had a lot of my memories are of the off the field stuff. A lot of the parties we had and a lot of the events. The beach games was one of my favorites. We did that my senior year and assigned all the girls to a team, and we picked a beautiful day on the beach, and there was trivia, there was beer pong, there was bat races, there was swimming in the ocean. I mean, we just had a great time with it. It was a lot of fun, actually. It was a nice way to close out my senior year.
What were your practices like?
Lots of running. When we didn't have a coach and we weren't sure, we were trying to teach girls how to tackle, and we'd play Red Rover just to get them used to being hit, and because you have to knock in, and then we'd go to ground and have them do like a tackle ring, and then that was the hardest part, I think, for a lot of the women was we all played sports, but even the sports where there's a lot of contact, I mean, for men, like lacrosse, women, you don't touch women, right? And so
don't knock them down.
Don't knock them down. We don't do anything with them. So it was very interesting trying to get the first practices and getting folks used to tackling, and then tackling without pads, and then also tackling in the right way. But there was a lot of conditioning, a lot of hills, and just running plays. It's not very exciting. Basically, keeping up the connections, having those solid connections, having the solid friendships that I got and that I've gained through rugby. I've kept some of those up, and that's what's really been amazing, and having that network of folks has been great. And with the advent of Facebook, I mean, you can find and keep in touch with pretty much anybody. Folks we probably wouldn't have kept in touch with, we have, and it's just been amazing to see them grow up, families grow up, and I mean, a lot of mothers on the Fairfield women's team now, which is crazy to me, because if I think back to everything we were doing before, I'm not really sure if I would have thought that we would have children.
That you'd be responsible
that we'd be
parents.
responsible adults. It's been a lot. A lot of my memories from Fairfield are rugby, a lot. And what I'm most excited about is how the men's and women's team really have become closer and closer over the years. I think in the beginning, it was a little disjointed. We would help each other out. They didn't need as much help from us as we needed from them, but it's been nice to see there's more of a connection. And being a part of the men's 50th is amazing. I can't even believe they're 50 years old. That's phenomenal. But it's been exciting.
Now I know that your team had their own rugby patch, and that might be something you'd like to.
What? I mean, I don't think they have it anymore, and this may have only been a 3-year patch, but the men had always had their patch, and we felt we needed our little, our own identity. And so Shannon O'Grady and I, who were both the vice presidents at the time, they always had 2 vice presidents on the women's team because they had a lot of laundry and we needed to do it all and needed 2 people to do it. But we sophomore year sat down and created this patch, and one of the junior girls, Laura Knapp, her uncle actually made these for us, and we probably got about, I want to say 30 or so made. And I don't know if it ever continued or not. I don't think it did, but we had this little patch for a little bit, for a couple years. So this is our little thing. But it was a fantastic time. It's some of, like I said, some of the best memories I have are from Fairfield University and Fairfield Ladies Rugby. We had a great time, and for the ones coming up, you will have a great time. These are great girls, they have great women, and it's just amazing. It's been an amazing experience.